Now on the Business Radio X network, Conscious Capitalism, elevating humanity through business in Southern Arizona. Your hosts, Sarah McCraren and Jeremy Neese.
Southern Arizona does good business, and we want to talk about it. Welcome to the Conscious Capitalism radio show and podcast, streaming live from the Tucson Business Radio X studio. Live and on demand, that is. So listen to us now, listen to us later, partake as many times as you'd like. So Conscious Capitalism is an international movement promoting business as a force for good. They have 40 plus chapters in the United States with a chapter in Arizona and lots of activity down here in Southern Arizona. So we're here because we want to bring people together, give people opportunities that are like-minded to do business with one another. And so we are also letting the public know who those people are so that you can engage with them yourselves.
Perfect. Yeah. Conscious Capitalism, we welcome organizations of all stripes. Today, we're going to focus on gaining some insights on how these principles come into play in the hospitality and sort of local attractions, if you will. So we want to introduce you to the voices that are going to be on the show. I'll start with myself. I'm Jeremy Neese. My day job is with Retirement Evolutions, where we provide long-range wealth planning services. My interest in this show, Conscious Capitalism, and other related concepts is to explore how we can effectively make long-standing improvements for the human family.
And I'm Sarah McCraren with McCraren Compliance. We specialize in workplace safety, so consulting and training services. We focus particularly on MSHA, which is mining, OSHA, particularly construction, and then fleet services, DOT. And our purpose is to create workplaces where we all watch out for each other. So our guest today, first, we have Jonathan Lutz. He is the executive director of the Tucson Audubon Society. Jonathan is experienced an environmental nonprofit director with a decade-long history advocating and educating on behalf of wildlife. He is skilled in advocacy, fundraising, financial management, marketing, media relations, and developing educational programs. Jonathan has served as the executive director for the Michigan Audubon Society and director of the Montana Audubon Center. He co-leads winter birding tours in Michigan's eastern Upper Peninsula, sharing the endangered Kirtland warblers with visitors from around the world. He also guides residents on owl prowls along the Yellowstone River. Thank you for joining us, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
We also have with us Todd Hanley. So Todd is the leader of one of Tucson's most iconic establishments. That is the family-owned and operated Hotel Congress. He is also in charge of the sister restaurant, Maynards Market and Kitchen. He has been overseeing these businesses since the early 2000s when he relocated to the Midwest. Todd is passionate about the growth of downtown Tucson and is a champion of sustainable practices. The good things happening under his stewardship have not been unnoticed. He has received Copper Cactus Leadership of the Year honors, has received awards for green initiatives, and boasts standing as the only historic hotel in Arizona with TripAdvisor's Green Leaf Gold level designation. Todd has been very active in the service with community groups, including founding the Agave Heritage Festival, which is a community-wide celebration of the cultural, commercial, and culinary significance of the agave. Thank you so much, Todd.
Wow, that was... Delise, thank you. The marketing
Does that
director.
sound like you?
It sounds just like me. I forgot how good it sounded. I don't want to boastful.
Sheet.
I know. I might just say I'm a little bit out of breath after, talking about both of you. Yeah.
Sarah, well said. I mean, I was listening to Jonathan's. I was like, boy, this is interesting. Like, parallel lives almost on some levels, both into sustainability, both into the environment, one on the Audubon Riparian Society, and then I happen to be into this whole world of agave. So it's an interesting kind of confluence of people here.
Very cool.
That's for sure. Well, Jonathan, how about you fire us up, please? We would love to hear your tale on how you came to be part of the Tucson Audubon, what its history is, just
Sure.
your story in general. Please
Sure.
enlighten us.
So I'm a new member of your community, and I'll start by saying thank you for having me here and for creating such a great community. My partner and I are thrilled to be homeowners on the west side. We walk to Tumamoc Hill. That's our 2 or 3 times a week activity after work on the weekends. And, for me, with an Audubon career, I've landed in one of the top 3 or 4 destinations in the entire United States for people to come and enjoy the world of birds.
That's amazing.
It is.
Of all the reserves there are, top 4, that's...
Yeah, can you believe a lot of people look at, let's say a lot of outsiders, they look at our desert environment here and... they think it's sterile,
Desolate,
that
yeah.
there's not much going on, but it's actually one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. And when it comes to birds, people literally flock here. I'll try to try not to use too many of the puns. I'm just
But it must
starting
be
to
kind of
spread my
fun to
wings.
get, a new laugh every time you use kind of an old.
Oh yeah, no, it's really a bottomless glass of puns in the bird world.
I'm sure.
But I was fortunate. So Jen got a career position here. I was living in Montana at the time and enjoying everything that state has to offer. And and when she said, "Hey, I think we're going to settle down in the Tucson area," I started looking for more Audubon work, which, as Sarah mentioned, I've been doing for a little more than a decade. And my career here started with Tucson Audubon Society in Patagonia. So, I wasn't part of your Tucson community. I was part of the 900 resident strong community of Patagonia, and I loved it. It suited me very well. And Tucson Audubon has a 1.5 acre residential nature preserve there that receives 15,000 visitors a year. And it is primarily because of one single species of bird called the violet-crowned hummingbird, which is rare to find anywhere else in the United States. We go down to central Mexico, and there are many of them, but in terms of a bird occurring in the U.S., this is one spot where you can see it all year round.
Cool. And what brought you to birds in general? How did that come to be?
I've been a lifelong nature lover, and my parents really supported my interest in the outdoors and let me have a row of aquariums up against the back of the house filled with various critters for me to observe and draw and, take notes on before releasing again. And I'm primarily interested in aquatic ecology and fish. That's really where my deep passion is, and all the Audubon people know this. So I'm not revealing a secret.
There's room in your heart for all types of creatures.
Exactly. And the birding world is very welcoming. And I started my career in 2008 with the Michigan Audubon Society, as Sarah mentioned, and really wanted to be a nonprofit executive director, wanted to know all about the world of fundraising and marketing, donor relations, financial management, all the sort of non-glamorous side of the work that we do, which at Tucson Audubon Society is simply inspiring people to enjoy and protect birds. And it's been quite a journey, and honored to be leading a 70-year-old organization. We turned 70 this year.
Man, that's
impressive.
impressive.
3,000 members and visitors from all over the globe. So it's a true pleasure.
That's great.
And just to interject, I have to say that I think of Tucson, I think of weather, I think of the Sonoran Desert, I think of the biodiversity, but it's often kind of left unknown the realities of how amazing literally the riparian world is here. I mean, and it's an absolute gem. And I say that because it's driving economic tourism, and that's that element of conscious capitalism that's so important. And I'm in the business of tourism, so it speaks near and dear to my heart, but I also am a big proponent of sustainability. The city of gastronomy has been such a big part of our growth as a community. And I'm thinking to myself, I have something to do with making sure Visit Tucson is even more aware of this, because I sometimes feel we don't shout that out enough. I don't hear about it.
No, that's great.
Truly. I mean,
it's I'd throw in the dark sky status that Tucson has as well. I mean, people do come here for these reasons. In Arizona alone, recreational birding is nearly a $2 million a year economic impact for the state. Wow. And, we're having, millions of residents are engaged in the activity of watching birds, which means they are flocking to these riparian areas. The San Pedro River, the last free-flowing river in the desert Southwest, that is part of our greater community here down in Cochise County. Of course, we have the Santa Cruz that flows right through town, and I'm thrilled with all the work that's happening there. I've waded through the effluent sections. I've even since I already outed myself as a fish nerd, I've even tried to fly fish for the carp that live in the effluent stream.
Sure.
It is very, very difficult. and I won't bore everybody with the technical details of that. But we have soft-shelled turtles, we have great blue herons, we have a lot of aquatic insects using that space. And if you look at some of my pictures just right that I've taken while on those trips, you could be anywhere in a pristine river situation in the United States.
And speaking to that as well as that greenway element of the Santa Cruz River, and the fact that hopefully, I don't know the reality of it, but sooner than maybe later, they're going to actually start to flow water through the Santa Cruz River as a part of the water conservation element of our southern Arizona. Yeah, look that up. I can't speak to it well, but it's just exciting to be another aspect of how we are as a community working to not just draw people in and create a sustainable community, but do something that's good for everybody.
Yeah.
It's really cool stuff. And I love the word effluence because it's better than the other words that they're using out there. So,
I've had a little bit of inside, privy to a little inside information on that project, and the intentions are all very strong. Making sure that we're not introducing invasive plant species to those riparian zones where we want to literally turn the water on for the river. Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, all the infrastructure exists, and it's a matter of making a few little tweaks and getting the right approvals and then making it happen. And I love the enthusiasm for that. I confessed earlier that I miss water and trees, and being a West Sider, the thought of walking down to the river or riding my bike down there and seeing that flow of water and the additional life that it brings is really, really exciting.
Yeah, I'm a West Sider too, and I didn't know. So I'm definitely looking it up and going to stay on top of it and do what I can, to support it. But I'm going to say one more thing. It's not just making sure Visit Tucson does a better job, but it's also, I'm thinking about the Sun Corridor, because these are very important things for attracting business as well.
Sure.
A big part of what will draw a large corporation or any size, a company into an area is what is the lifestyle available to the people that are going to work there. And so I think we also need to make sure that, and I know that Visit Tucson works with the Sun Corridor, so it's a natural trickle through, but we've got to make sure that it's also promoted as why business Tucson is and Southern Arizona is a good place to do business.
That's a good point.
Totally different platforms, totally different business models, but they're accomplishing the same thing. They're trying to create a better place for people to visit, a better place for people to move, a better place for businesses to move, just to make Tucson a better community. And you're correct. There's many different organizations that should be supporting it. And that's just some of the challenges of Tucson is just trying to make sure that we're coordinated as best we can. So, but that's exciting. I'm like, man, I had no idea that I'd be sitting over here just talking riparian worlds. And then we talk about the Santa Cruz River and literally effluent water coming in to kind of really re-energize that portion of a river that's been dry for, I don't even know how many decades.
Right.
And it's,
since we started.
Yeah, it's
grand habitation of this area.
Tumamoc Hill is near. I live in the Mercado district, so my wife is on Tumamoc Hill pretty consistently. I love the hill. I know Ben Wilder, the executive director of Tumamoc Hill. He's unbelievable. We all know Janos Wilder, the chef. So Tucson is just. I smile literally, and I'm on this podcast smiling right now. That how unbelievably well connected we are. It's pretty great.
That's a cool thing about Tucson. It's
amazing.
Over 1 million, but there's a strong connection between all of us. Well, Jonathan shared that he's leading an organization that's 70 years old. I guess the only person that can trump that would be yourself. Tell us a little bit about your organizations and how you found yourself in the chair you sit.
The reason I'm here is probably much longer than our podcast would allow, but suffice it to say, I'm a Midwesterner. Went to Western Michigan University, so I'm absolute lover of Michigan, people in Michigan, and just stumbled into Tempe, Arizona through the YMCA in 2002. Met my now wife, who her family owns Hotel Congress, and took a leap of faith in 2003 to come down and operate the business on behalf of my mother and father-in-law. And the rest is truly history. 15 years ago, so I am the general manager of Hotel Congress and Maynards Market and Kitchen. Hotel Congress is now officially 100 years old. We turned 100 awesome. November of 2018, and we're in a centennial year celebrating a lot of different aspects of why we are a unique and iconic business, to that bio introduction that Delise wrote for me. But yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about Hotel Congress in terms of the uniqueness, the authenticity, what we do as a business. I think a lot of Tucsonans know, and a lot of people internationally know. Very proud of what we've done in the last 10 years with our approach to sustainability, water conservation, recycling, reducing, composting. I mean, we're just doing a lot, as much as we possibly can. We're a member of the Emerging 2030 district that a lot of people are familiar with. Maynard's Market and Kitchen is our little sister business across the street, the real fancy, wonderful dining experience, Maynard's Kitchen, and then the fun, fast casual Maynard's Market. The root of our business model is really simple: community. We want to be a part of a community where we can thrive, we can be successful, but we offer something that what I have been coined over the last decade, that sense of place. You come downtown, you come to the Hotel Congress. I best describe Hotel Congress as the living room of Tucson. Like, that's where you go to meet anybody and everybody. And I'm just so completely blessed to work for the Hotel Congress and Maynard's Market and Kitchen. It is a family business, the most unbelievably functional, dysfunctional family business you'll ever meet, and it's a blast. I mean, it really is. And it's afforded me a platform to try and make an impact, and I'm hoping to continue to do so in my role as the co-founder of Agave Heritage Festival. I give the co-founder accolades to, obviously, the Hotel Congress that gave me the platform to do it. And ultimately, my goal is to just make Tucson and Southern Arizona a place that people come to, not just for tourism reasons, not just for business reasons, but for anything and everything, because there's such a rich culture and history here that we should be shouting it out every second we can.
Completely agree.
Well, as a actually as a native Tucsonan, and then a long-time West Sider. I think I've been on the West Side, for almost 20 years. But, I've definitely watched, the progression and the evolution of the Hotel Congress, from being the place I wanted to go when I first turned 21. Yeah. And on from there. But what, hearing, what you're seeing and now matching that up with my, outside view.
Sure.
I love that the success has come from embracing, taking responsibility for being a central point with it for building community. And that taking on that responsibility, saying that what we really want to do is be that living room, has led to your success.
Sure.
It's not a byproduct. It's not an afterthought. It's not a marketing ploy. It was, an authentic intention that has absolutely driven your success.
Yeah, and Richard and Shayna, kudos to them. That was the core. They took a historic building and injected some infrastructure, some professionalism, some accountability. This is, mind you, 35 years ago. And out of that came art, culture, entertainment, hip, cool, great food, great drink. So the platform of the Hotel Congress is best embodied by really just the people that work there. And they all, here's a pun or it may be a metaphor. They're all drinking the Kool-Aid. It really are. And it's,
the agave Kool-Aid.
There you go. Exactly. So, and it's exciting to see Tucson. I don't really want to say downtown. I'll just say Tucson thrive, because if you say downtown, that's almost kind of a given. But now Tucson's starting to thrive. People are coming here not just for downtown, not just for the resorts, not just for golfing, not just for bird watching, not just for dark sky, but everything. Great food, great drink, history, culture. It's an exciting time. Tucson is absolutely on the map, and we just have to keep pushing forward. Obviously, there's lots of work to be done. Education, economic security, food food security, all those elements that come with a great community. But we're chipping away.
And I think it's important to note that not just, culture and food and, all of those, art, but it's Tucson-esque. I mean, it is, all of those things are very uniquely Tucson. You could not find the same things anywhere else. So we're becoming, urban and a little more sophisticated, I suppose, but not really, because it's very Tucson.
Tucson sophisticated. It's okay to say. For me, I think it's fine. I agree. We don't espouse to be anything but who we are. And it took me about 8 years to figure that out. And this pace that it takes place took me... I'm still trying to figure it out. But I mean, it's unique and it's fun and it's real. I mean, I think real is what I like most about it. And to just, when we're sitting here and you start to hear that everybody knows players in the what you call stakeholders, that's an important word. There's so many stakeholders that all really are kind of pushing or pulling in the same direction. So you're spot on, Sarah.
The other thing I love that you said is, drinking the Kool-Aid. It just kind of made the first connection for me, and I don't know if anyone else has ever thought of this before, but that actually is culture. So if so that is a nice sort of, lingo way of saying, if you're drinking the Kool-Aid, then we really do have a strong culture that we've established. Yeah.
It's a kitschy way of just saying we're all bought in. We're all extremely excited. And I mean, opportunities abound. I mean, ultimately, Patagonia, just an amazing location, an hour away. Wilcox, there's a wonderful little wine community kind of coming out of nowhere in Wilcox. Tucson obviously is starting to become known as a small wine community. There's a craft beer community, and talk about affluence, Borderlands Brewery. Taking
Mike's doing amazing things.
Mike is great over there. Just unbelievable things happening. And I guess, I could go on and on. So
a lot of focus on community businesses too, local grown, family, at least launched. We don't quite have the glut of corporate franchise chain on every corner.
It's a good balance right now. Right. I think we probably could have a few more big players to maybe inject a bit more capital and resources, but that's just one person's opinion. And at the end of the day, I'll let the Sun Corridor and the Southern Arizona Leadership Councils, they'll dictate that. I'll just keep the windows clean and the stoop swept and the food hot and the drinks cold.
That's right. Do your part. But you're right. I mean, to talk to Jonathan's love of fishing, we need all size fish in the streams and the lakes. Otherwise, the whole ecosystem falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that my role and Jen's role in being new residents of the town, drinking the Kool-Aid for us is we're investors. We're investing in your community.
Yep.
By settling down, buying a house. We frequently go out to eat and take part in Tucson nightlife. That's how we're going to get into things. We're members of almost every nonprofit institution in town. That's again one of the ways that we're giving back and showing our interest, and also finding out who are the players, what is happening, what's the pulse of the community. And, we do that through the art museum, through the botanical gardens, Tohono Chul, obviously the desert museum, public media, KXCI, we're just big fans of everything local that's happening here.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was going to say that's just so important. This show is Conscious Capitalism, which, is sort of the lens of organizational leaders. What are we doing to espouse these principles? But the conscious consumerism is really where the rubber hits the road. We need to be rewarding the organizations that are doing it right and are, committed to the long-term success of our community. So everything you just spelled out is probably more important than the things that we can infuse into a business leader's mind.
Absolutely.
Let's get out there and shop smart.
Yep.
And it's a real opportunity. I mean, I don't want to dive into the world of politics, but we're coming up on an election with the mayor stepping down, and I think if we're wanting to make an impact, there is no better way. I'm not a hugely activist, in the political realm, but I am a business owner per se, and for me, that's a big step for us. And if we don't have leaders that can actually implement the values of what we all, again, are talking about here, then it's going to be a challenge. But anyways.
That's true. Well, actually, that's a great opportunity for us to make a quick Conscious Capitalism plug here. In April, the 23rd through the 25th is the International Conference, which is being held up in Phoenix. which is pretty awesome for us to be able to gather people from around the globe to kind of see what's happening in the business community that is Arizona. And so much of the narrative is about the discourse on the political landscape. We actually have Governor Ducey, and I'm blanking on the name right now, the governor of Sonora, Mexico, are both going to come together and speak how they put together a deal to bring in the big auto assembly facility.
I just saw that.
Casa
I
Grande.
saw that newsletter come across talking about that.
And I think that speaks exactly to where your head's at is let's solve these problems and let's focus on what's working rather than arguing ad nauseum about what might never work. Let's find the common ground and drive forward.
It frustrates me when there's a place for everything in some levels. And so when we get so caught up in just having just disagreements and not agreeing on what's the best course, sometimes you just have to, step back and think about what the bigger picture is. It's for me the simplicity of, hey, I don't necessarily think big box stores are great, but I'm also not here to condemn them. I think there's a place for everything, and I'm a big believer in taking what you may consider not to be a positive and turning it into a positive, doing good with maybe what we'll call not good, if you will. I guess I don't know.
Well, yeah, and a big, in some cases, a big box store, if they have strong values, if they're a purpose-driven company, if they understand the importance of community and stakeholders, they can serve an important role within your community and help build and grow and support all of the things that we want, that we like, that has that local flair, and provide some decent jobs. So I think there is a role for, and there are many big companies who do understand, of course we're going to just name it as conscious capitalism. You can call it a million different things, but that's just the easy way for us to describe it, who understand that doing business in a certain way is not just good for the community, but also is good, for the business longevity as well. And so for so a big part of, why we even do this podcast is not just to recognize the people that are going in Tucson, but promoting a way of doing business to get more companies, big and small, to recognize the not just the community advantages, but the business advantages.
Nicely said.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, speaking about, community, tell us a little bit more about what birding does for the community. What are some of the numbers and the economics and everything that, you're bringing by supporting birding?
Sure. So I mentioned earlier, there's this $1 billion level impact that recreational birding and wildlife watching brings to the state of Arizona each year. And a lot of that is concentrated down here in the sort of this tri-county core service area that Tucson Audubon has, in Pima, Cochies, and Santa Cruz counties. As you were talking earlier, I was thinking there is this shift going on in conservation across the United States. We have declining license sales for fishing and hunting, and those two things have really funded conservation in this country for a century. And so starting to work with state agencies, biologists, government decision makers, and getting them to recognize that there's a slew of non-consumptive, is what it's called, non-consumptive activities, and that could be kayaking, it can be mountain biking, and of course bird watching is involved with that, and figuring out, okay, how to engage these folks in a way that helps fund conservation for the next 100 years, to make sure that we have public lands, to make sure that lakes are full of fish and the skies are full of birds. And I think that there's going to be a multiple angle approach to that involves not only state and federal agencies, but also businesses, corporations, the same folks that we've been talking about today, that are trying to build community and recognize that people in their communities, we want access to the out of doors. We want the opportunity to go and see and learn more about that family of Harris hawks that's hanging out outside your house. Why are there 4 hawks hunting together in my backyard today? Well, that happens in Tucson, and people deserve the opportunity to appreciate it, learn about it, and obviously protect it for the long term.
Take a moment, notice that they're there, observe them, because it's so easy to let them come and go, and you never even stop to notice.
It's true. We started out, and sorry to cut you off. We started out this year with a very generous gift from a donor who's extremely interested in marketing. And this donor said, I'd really like you guys to do some bus advertising. And we kind of looked at each other, and my development director and I, and said, well, we don't know much about bus advertising. We don't know about its impact. We know who does it. We can make observations. So to indulge this donor, we're doing some bus advertising. We've got an advertisement on a streetcar. We're underwriting on AZPM and at the Loft. And the whole concept is Tucson, meet your birds. So yes, we're borrowing a little bit of messaging there from Tucson, meet yourself. But Tucson, meet your birds has a very simple URL. TucsonBirds.com.
That's fantastic.
So it's it's that vermilion flycatcher that's on the fence at the ball field.
Yep.
It's the curve-billed thrasher that each morning is going whit in your backyard, and of course the Harris hawks that I mentioned earlier, and just giving people a big bright portal to enter the world of birds and find out a little bit more about what's going on in their backyard. And the last thing I'll say about that is we're doing it. The campaign is bilingual, so yet another challenge. We don't have any Spanish speakers on our staff, which I view as a problem, a challenge for us to solve. And so we had to scramble a little bit and, talk to folks and get counsel on, okay, is the field guide interpretation of curved-billed thrasher, is that what we should use on a billboard that drives around town? Or is there a local common name that would be more appropriate? And we had to sort through that. We almost made a big mistake, but it was a fun process. So we're really inviting people in to understand more about the birds that are out there. And of course, that's now visible with all the branding that's in our community for 1,000 other businesses, and it's pretty exciting.
What I was going to say a few moments ago was we all are aligned on many levels, but what we can do a better job of is creating awareness for the folks that may be not as aligned. And for when you said your donor was into marketing and you were on the buses, I was just like ecstatic. Like, why not create awareness? And if it's a good marketing campaign and if it's thoughtful, which it sounds like were very thoughtful in your approach, that impacts. I mean, you may not see the metrics right away, but the point is, it's like, boy, don't be the best kept secret in Southern Arizona, Wilcox, or Cochise County. I think that's fantastic. I did have a question though. So what do you think the reason is for declining licenses or permits for hunting or fishing?
Sure. Yeah. There's just it's probably related to. I'm thinking back to myself. So I'm the son of a career pilot, and at the time when I would have been getting my pilot's license, age 16, I was doing a million things, and that was probably in 1994. I shouldn't admit that on the air, but now just think about all of the challenges that kids have in terms of things that are competing for their attention. And that with a more urban-focused, urban-centric society nationwide, it's causing less interest in those licensed activities.
Is that what you attribute it to? I wasn't sure if that was stigma
I think generally speaking, that's what it is. I don't think it's stigma. I think there will always be people who have an animal welfare mindset that competes with the interests of fishing and hunting, and I personally struggle with that a little bit myself. And then you're always going to have stigma around gun culture, firearm use, but I don't think that those two things are driving it as much as we're a more urban-centric society, and there's just a lot more competing for people's time and attention. We don't make enough time for ourselves to be out in the out of doors, whether that's quail hunting or bird watching or chasing fish up in the reservoir lakes outside of Phoenix.
Or just being outdoors. I mean, that's what I figured that's what it was, but I was intrigued by that because that's a little bit of a scary statistic when it comes to, because you're 100% right. Conservation is funded through not gun permits, but hunting permits, fishing permits, and
excise taxes on firearms, and fishing lures and ammunition and things. That's the model that we've had for 100 years, and it's worked phenomenally. Yep. I mean, if you compare us to other countries in the world, our public lands and access to natural resources is unparalleled. The thing that strikes me though is just getting outside in Tucson, literally just going into a backyard or a public park, the biodiversity that you can see on any given day here. Here, if you know what you're listening for, it's incredible. Yeah, we don't have to work as hard as you would. I just spent the weekend in Cincinnati where my girlfriend's family lives, and I saw a dozen species of birds. I was not birding while I was there, but I was just listening and watching and got really excited. There was a peregrine falcon right downtown, which we have here in Tucson. You could probably see one from the stoop of the Hotel Congress. But here, I could go out in my backyard and see 30 species in a couple of hours while I'm watering the garden.
So interesting.
It's incredible.
And it's cool that you've made the information accessible with the campaign that you're talking about, because that's a lot of it is awareness, right? Once your eyes have been open to something, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Like, now I know. Pay attention for that.
And we also have, like with birds, people who are interested in birds in the United States. It's a fairly homogenous group. It's well-educated folks. It's pretty evenly split male, female, very white, and typically age 60, 65 and older. It's a retirement activity. And if we are going to, really make a shift in conservation and engage our communities and our businesses with the ideas of conservation and preservation, we have to reach more people. And there's a nationwide effort to do that through Audubon. And we're really proud to be, just beginning a foray into accessing and creating relationships with people outside of our normal constituent base. And that's one of the more exciting pieces of my job right now.
Well, that's the second time that's been brought up about, the conversation is really easy to have with everyone who thinks the same and agrees. Right. And you're all just, like kind of like how this conversation feels right now. But the important, and I want to say it's not important because, of course, I love having these conversations with, people like you. But the equally or maybe more important conversation is for the people who aren't already aligned. And it's not just important for us to help them understand our perspective. It's equally important that we are open to understanding, whatever they're coming from, whatever, is in their hearts or is in, a priority for them. And so, just having that dialogue, making sure that we're melding a little bit more, I guess it's what seems to be missing.
Well, and I think that's where we solve problems too, is at that intersection of listening and understanding the other side, if you will. As you were mentioning your non-consumptive solutions to conservation. I've got a good friend who visits Africa quite often, and he was actually roundabout way involved with some of the engagements with poachers and really getting an understanding. For them, it's feeding their families, right?
Yeah.
It's economics. We can tell them all day about your pilfering away what might be the last of these species, and it's so wasteful and all these things. And they say, yeah, well, tell that to my child who needs this for food. So it was gaining that understanding that allowed them to say, oh, okay, so this is an economic problem. This isn't a cultural issue or anything else. So let's look at how we solve this from an economic perspective. And all of a sudden, the non-consumptive, the opportunity for where people to come witness these beautiful animals in their natural habitat and the tourism that can go with it and all the mom and pop businesses that can, create the kayaking tour through the swamp, through the landscapes. Like now all of a sudden we solve two problems at once. How are they going to feed their family, and how do we keep conservation of these critical pieces of our environments?
Yeah.
And a more sustainable way to feed their family, because again, if the whole thing was protecting an endangered species, once it's gone, it's gone. It of course, this is a conscious capitalism show, so I shouldn't feel too bad about bringing it back in. But it just makes me think of stakeholders. So stakeholder orientation is one of the tenets of conscious capitalism. And when we're talking about the people who aren't already in agreement with us, they still are our stakeholders. And we do need to figure out how to engage them and consider their needs if we're really looking for, holistic community, win-win-win-win-win solutions. So I don't know. It just, and I will also say that another little plug on Thursday morning, we're doing the first in a business education series where we're collaborating with Local First Arizona, and the topic will be all about stakeholder orientation. And through a couple of stories from some local leaders, but then also leaving with tools and resources to help you integrate the information back when you sit back in your own chair. So come join us on Thursday morning.
Cool. Very cool.
Well, that's a well-timed plug.
You guys are giving all the softball pitches. We appreciate that. But to that extent, Todd, I wanted to ask you, what type of things do you overtly do to enable your team or to encourage your team to be this conscious organization that you are, to be so community-centered?
That's a great question. I mean, from day one, we've just at the kind of core value of trying to be equitable with what our compensation packages are, to make sure that we're at least recognizing that we're running a business that has to be sustainable, which means profitable. But at the end of the day, that the entry level position is still in need of an equitable pay. We work hard with a lot of our just small perks and employee engagements. We offer a great benefits package. We offer health insurance, but we do a lot of training with the staff. I mean, as far as getting involved with the conscious capitalism or sustainability or that kind of mental or I guess mode, if you will, I mean, it's a part of our culture. So quarterly, we meet with our team as a departmental business, the restaurant or the nightclub, and we talk about hospitality and service. But there's always something about, and you'll appreciate this, Sarah, there's always something about workplace safety. There's always something about environmental and sustainability. So that's, again, probably more woven into the fabric of our culture than I probably give it credit for. But we just kind of been that way since 2003 when I came on board. And as much as we can to educate our staff, as much as we can to offer our staff just the things that make them feel appreciated. And, you know, we're still a tough business to work for, and we push our staff hard and we ask a lot of them. But I think at most of the times we're offering them a fun environment that they can feel proud to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm sure with what you've built, you sort of attract people that are just naturally inclined to see the value in what you're doing already, and it's easy for them to help you propagate it.
Agreed. I mean, nobody really can experience the culture of our business until they're within it. They can obviously see the amazing aspects of the business, from the events to the entertainment to the food to the history. So they see, to Sarah's point, kind of the outside looking in. But then when you come and work apart within this business, you'll know quickly that it's ingrained that we're doing our best to treat our staff the best we can with, from every angle. And again, not that health insurance or 401ks or competitive pay is the end all be all, but it's a good starting point. And then from there, you start working on those kind of soft kind of skills that can allow them to grow in terms of making sure that they can get better as a person, personally and professionally.
Yeah, and the fact that your quarterly meetings, that there's a spot on the agenda to even have talks about how do we continue to be a sustainable spot, and that's...
It's important because it's almost like muscle memory. Certain things are muscle memory, but when you get busy with a business of our size and kind of fluidity, if you're not structured and organized, you can quickly just start working only on what maybe is the forward-facing external guest. But if you focus on the internal guest, the staff member, and what really is important to us, I'm a big believer. If it's not written down, boy, I'm probably not going to remember it, nor probably do it. So...
I just got a little, ping in my heart when you're talking about the internal customer, because, you can attract, a lot of people based on the persona, but that doesn't mean that they have the skills to be there. And they may want to be there, they may have all the intent, and yet again not have the right skills, soft skills, hard skills, whatever they may be. And yet you're very clearly willing to invest in them. So every person comes in with value. You're willing to step up, invest in them. Obviously they have to meet you halfway, but I think it's great because you have to invest in your people. And yeah, those compensation, pure straight compensation is the starting point, but people really want to know that they're valued, and putting time in them, putting training in them, putting effort in them, and I will say, making sure that you focus on their safety, it makes them feel valued.
It truly does. I'm proud. Our security staff, which is probably 15, 16 people strong. It's a big nightclub at night. I mean, we put them through sexual assault training. We put them through mental illness training, conflict resolution. I mean, sometimes, to be quite frank with you, we get to this place where we're so busy that we're like, oh boy, you can do it when you do it, but we don't forget about it. We just make sure that it's never, ever forgotten, and we just squeeze it in whenever we can. And across the street, even at Maynards, I mean, we have 2 sommeliers on staff. We're consistently doing wine training and wine education. That's good for us, but we know that they're not going to be with us, most of them, for their career. So at the end of the day, that's a kind of a win-win investment for us and for them for sure. So, I mean, it's just, I guess I don't even track it as much as I probably should now. But I bet you our HR director, Rita could be very quick to answer quickly or very thoughtfully the question you asked, Jeremy. So,
well, it's just good business is sort of the bumper sticker on our car.
So, Jonathan, you and I were connected through Debbie Honan, who's your retail coordinator. Yep. So, if I were to ask Debbie, why is the Tucson Audubon Society a great place to work, what would she tell me?
Well, it's a family atmosphere. We all support each other, and I've been using this quote a lot lately from an economist. I'm not going to get it correctly, but I think it applies very well to Tucson Audubon and nonprofit organizations in general, probably for-profit businesses as well, is that, a transition is just a period between 2 transitions. And, we're in a transition. I'm a relatively new leader for the organization. And, anytime you go through those types of changes, whether it's a CEO for a big business or, executive director for a nonprofit, people have uncertainty. People need support. They need reassurance. They need good communications and clarity about what the next steps are. And I think in the last 9-10 months that I've been on board as executive director, we're heading in all of those directions. I keep telling the staff, don't hesitate to over communicate. Copy somebody if you think they have just a surface layer interest or level of responsibility in a certain message that you're emailing out. It's easy to delete an email message. And don't be afraid to ask. If you have a question about something or a suggestion for that matter, please put it out there for us. Let's address these things head on and in the open. But I think for Debbie in the shop, where it's so much more than just a shop, buying and selling goods. It's our point of contact for a huge percentage of our constituent base. We have a native plant sale going on right now, so a whole different segment of the community is coming in to purchase, these drought-tolerant native plants that support pollinators and birds. And Debbie, I overheard 3 or 4 of our phone conversations today because our sort of open format office. She's answering questions about migratory hawks and Tubac. She's answering questions about membership. She's, directing calls here and there. She's managing volunteers. And, so our shop does a lot more than just sell things. But I think she would say family atmosphere, that she and the rest of the staff, myself included, have weathered this sort of transition storm. And now we're transitioning into, year 71 of Tucson Audubon Society, where we're doing the strategic planning thing. We're doing a lot of planning in general just to put down steps that we want to take going forward and how we want to develop the organization. Family comes to mind, but I was thinking about what Todd was saying in terms of supporting staff. Nonprofit organizations, we have limitations on how much we can pay people. So, we pay 100% benefits, and we try to keep that as intact as possible, even in tough budget years like the one that we're in now. I don't have formal training in business management, but to me, I like the idea of empowering as many people as possible, almost a decentralized sort of management model where people are having a great amount of responsibility and driving their programs, and the expectation for me personally is that we're just communicating at a very high level about how we're doing that. And so I think I'm seeing employee employees enjoy that opportunity to create and guide the direction of their programs, be part of high-level planning efforts and high-level conversations as we move forward.
Yeah, when you were talking, the word holacracy just kind of was flashing in my head. Yeah,
What's holacracy?
so it's sort of like forget the hierarchy. Everybody has value. We let people contribute. We don't hold people back. We let people take risk. We make it safe to fail, and that way you truly get the best out of people, and that's the benefit to us and to the individuals. They know that they are valued and that people are willing again to invest in them.
That's great.
Yeah. I think professional development is really key too. And in addition to all of that, making sure that people get training if they want it, they can attend that conference. Hey, this would be really good for my advocacy efforts or my ecological restoration. And then soft skills we were talking about earlier. I assume like customer service would be part of that. I reached out to a couple of people at Mr. Car Wash. I said, "Hey, I've been through your business a couple of times. I like to have a clean car," and I said,
Me too.
I really appreciate how nice of an experience I have when I visit your business. Can you come and talk to our conservation nonprofit organization about
smart.
how you do that?
That's brilliant.
And it was great. We talked about basics from, our physical presentation to the world to the way that we talk. And that just to have that sort of non-traditional third party come in and tell us how they do it was incredible. And it was a lot of fun too.
Well, and you picked the right business because I'm sure they jumped on it. There was no hesitation, ready to support. I mean, they're big community supporters and a really great organization. So you not only did you ask the right people from they've got customer service down and they've got a whole team of people and they're constantly working on it, but also the people who are more than willing to support.
Yeah, they've been impressive. So my history on that, as a junior nonprofit employee in Charleston, South Carolina in the early 2000s was the local tire store chain, Gerald's Tires, giving them a shout out across the country.
They'll appreciate that.
They came in and did our customer service training at this public aquarium where I was working, and elements of that training I have never forgotten. So it was natural for me to reach out to a business like Mr. and the connection has gone further than that training day, which I appreciate very much. And they're practically neighbors to us there at the historic Y on University Avenue, so they're just around the corner.
There was one thing you said that if we have time, I want to explore a little bit further. You were mentioning that you're doing the native species sale.
Yeah.
And one of the tenets of conscious capitalism is purpose beyond profit. So we view nonprofits and for-profits really all part of the same DNA. We all, if we don't bring in money, we cease to have our operations. We cannot deliver the services that we are today. So on the for-profit side, usually it's the purpose dynamic that needs a little bit of intentionality. On the nonprofit side, the purpose is usually pretty clear. That's why they show up. But how you go about retaining dollars to make sure that you can carry forward your initiatives. That one struck me as being innovative, right? Like that's obviously there's connect the dots and you can see how that works with the birds, but what other things do you encourage your team to kind of explore? The bus wraps is another great example of, how do you expand the sustainability of your revenue, not just your mission?
Yeah, I mean, we have to keep diverse revenue streams. We do some payrolling for employees that work with the National Park Service on projects that are specific to our mission. We are also a mitigation credit recipient, so we can sell mitigation credits on behalf of large corporations, and so we generate funds that way.
How does that work?
Yeah, I was figured that was going to come around. Essentially, Company X does a project and there's some environmental impact, so they can sell and purchase credits related to that project, and then we can pick up the credits or the revenue from those credits and do a restoration project elsewhere. So we have a big couple 100-acre project on the lower Santa Cruz River where we're restoring a previously disturbed habitat. We've planted over 1,000 mesquite trees down there in the last year, in addition to a whole slew of other things. And that's a result of a project where there was environmental damage elsewhere, planned environmental damage. So sort of an exchange type of program. And we're one of the only sort of credit managers in the state of Arizona as that program is in its infancy. And we do that in partnership with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's a pretty interesting thing that I've inherited, but is certainly a way that we generate funds. I just to take it a little step further with native plants too. There are dozens of native plant sales happening across Tucson right now, both via nonprofit organizations and for-profit entities. And one of our things is we want the plants in the ground. We don't really care who sells them, and I think that's what you were getting at. So it's nothing for us to put out an announcement of, hey, you can go and get your your native penstemons or your creosote bush for your front yard at any one of these locations. Sure, we'd love you to stop by and talk birds with Tucson Audubon Society, but you can also do that at 3 or 4 other places around town. So a lot of sharing.
That's great. Thanks for elaborating on that.
Sure.
We getting tight? Seconds or minutes? Oh, okay.
Okay.
What else we got?
Well, I would just, ask, we talked before we were on air about just how interconnected we all are. And we've talked a bit about, both of your organizations specifically. And, you did bring up Mr. Car Wash, who is definitely one of our favorites as well. What are some other examples of good business and they could even be nonprofit, because nonprofit, again, are making, real economic contributions to our communities. What are some of your favorite examples of good business in Southern Arizona?
Oh, boy. John, I'll defer to you. I mean, I have one idea, but I'll see if he has a better idea first.
I'll talk a little business strategy that we utilize, and then maybe that'll spark some more ideas around the table. But we want to impress upon businesses that this $1 billion impact really does exist. Because I can throw out $1 billion and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. Bird watchers, how many cups of coffee does that equate? And then that's exactly the question that we want to help answer. So creating a mechanism, and in the past I've used a business card. It just said birders bring business, and it allows, if we go out to dinner, it allows us to write down the amount that we spent in that business and leave it behind with our check. And that signals to the business, oh, a bird watcher or bird watchers came and ate at the Gathering Grounds restaurant in Patagonia, or had a drink at the Hotel Congress for that matter. And, kind of gives you an idea of who your clients and your customers are. And I'd like to take that a step further to where the businesses actually sign up to participate in that program and mail us back those cards so that we can start.
It's a clever collaboration.
Totally, yeah. I mean,
like
it's very hard copy, non-digital, but I think we can generate some results from.
You need to turn it into an app where they just scan the card.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other thing that's nice about that is, not only do you get the information back, but the purveyors, the business owners will engage more, because it's more. I mean, because it's in the check, you pick it up, you're like, oh. But if you actually do something with it after that, and then you can give the information back to them, directly to them, so they can see, what were their, they can see the total dollar as well.
Yeah, I like that. We have a big festival that occurs here in early August. 900 registered participants, and similar festivals around the country. They're generating $1 to $2 million in economic activity over the course of a long weekend. And I believe that our festival has that impact. We just don't know. Yeah, right. So creating these mechanisms, it's really important for us.
I don't know. It feels right to me.
Yeah.
We've legitimized it here right now.
Good. I love it. Success.
Put the stamp on it.
Yeah.
So, I think that probably brings us, pretty close to an end. I definitely want to thank our guests, Jonathan Lutz and Todd Hanley, and, kind of point out a couple of things that I know I am going to take with me and utilize, TucsonBirds.com. TucsonBirds.com. And then the Agave Festival. When's the next one?
It's April essentially April 26th through May 5th, if you go to the website, agaveheritagefestival.com. So we have a big event at the Fox Theater on April 26th with some conservationists, some ecologists coming in from Mexico, from the East Coast. It's going to be a really cool event talking about conservation, pollination, the agave plant, and the impact on our Sonoran region. So I'm pretty, that's the one I'm pretty excited about.
It's on my calendar.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we'll see everybody there, and then also everybody will be looking at the TucsonBirds.com. Yeah.
I have to shout out real quick. I'm a bird expert. I've had 3 hummingbirds in my not rosemary tree. Oh gosh, what's my tree? My goodness. Anyways, I've 3 different hummingbirds, or maybe it's the same hummingbird, 3 times nested in there and have their little babies. So cool.
Now, right now is the season. So everybody be careful when you're trimming your trees for brush and bulky this week. All the birds are up nesting, including hummingbirds.
Good point. Thank you both. This has been
Thanks for having us on.
fantastic. I learned so much.
No, we really appreciate
Great
the opportunity.
success in your
Fun
endeavors.
hour. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jeremy. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.